Hey guys, welcome on into the second part of my coaster rankings video. I am picking up right where we left off, so let's go ahead and start things off. At number 34, we have Nighthawk, a Vekoma Flying Dutchman at Carowinds. This came from California's Great America, where it was stealth, and this was during Paramount's reign on the park, as well as the other old King's Entertainment parks, which includes Kings Island, Carowinds, King's Dominion, California's Great America, and Canada's Wonderland. And this opened at Carowinds as Borg Assimilator, themed to Star Trek. This is kind of rough, but it wasn't one of the best I've experienced, but it also wasn't one of the worst. If it was, it would have been in part 1. At number 33, we have Bat, a Vekoma Boomerang at Canada's Wonderland. Your run-of-the-mill Vekoma Boomerang. It has old aerodynamics trains. Nothing too special about that. Number 32, this is a hot take. Racer at Kings Island. Racer is a PTC wooden coaster that opened as Kings Island's flagship attraction. Still running strong 52 years later. Good airtime, not so good trains. Those PTC trains, the lap bars are terrible. You'd find those trains on The Beast at Kings Island. At number 31, Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure. This is what I like to call the B&M Hyper of wooden coasters. If you've seen a B&M Hyper, whether that be Diamondback at Kings Island, or Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland, or even something like Apollo's Chariot, they are just long and skinny and a bunch of hills. That is what Shivering Timbers is, except it's made out of wood and about 80 feet shorter than what a Hyper would be. At number 30, Rougarou at Cedar Point. This coaster opened up as Mantis, I think, in 1995, I believe. It was a 90s, it opened in the 90s, and as Mantis, it closed in 2014. 2013, 13 or 14, to be converted into a floorless coaster, because I've ridden Vortex at Carowinds. Those stand-up trains are not very comfortable, and with the layout on Rougarou, it's a lot of positive forces, so it's pushing you down. Not very fun, but the floorless trains do make it better. At number 29, I have Invertigo at Kings Island. Invertigo is a Vekoma inverted boomerang, so take Bat at Canada's Wonderland and turn it into an inverted coaster. They are quite intense, though. Be prepared for the loop the second time around. That's all I have to say about that one. At number 28, I have Vortex at Canada's Wonderland. Vortex is, I believe, the same layout as Bat at Kings Island. And Bat is definitely the better of the 3 aero suspended coasters I've been on. Where did I have that one? and they're still good rides. Bat is by far the smoothest because Vortex, I believe, was an 84 project, and Bat was a 93 project. Going back to Kings Island at number 27, we have The Beast. Another hot take, but I have ridden coasters better than this. And, I mean, I love The Beast for what it is, but it's gonna need a new set of trains in the near future. The world's longest wooden coaster. It's held onto that record since it opened. It's been 45 years, and it actually broke its own record in 2022. They added like 2 feet to the layout, and they steepened the drop. At number 26, we have Flight of Fear at Kings Island. Flight of Fear is a Premier Rides launch coaster. It has a spaghetti bowl layout, so it's pretty much an indoor version of Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America. That's a mouthful to say. Flight of Fear has a punchy launch and 4 inversions through its layout. Good ride, but very rough, especially for a steel coaster. Steel coasters should not get that rough. I've ridden Aero Loopers smoother, but I have Flight of Fear up higher because of that launch. Oh, look, another coaster theme with something about flying in the name. At number 25 is Flying Cobras at Carowinds. Flying Cobras is exactly like Bat at Canada's Wonderland, but Flying Cobras has vest restraints, so it's way better, and you can actually enjoy the layout without headbanging, which I appreciate. At number 24, this one's a hot take, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Every time I've ridden this, it has felt, except for the very last time I rode it, this has felt forceless to me. I haven't gotten much airtime, but it's really, it has potential to be a great ride. I'm not saying that it's not, it's just that I need a forceful ride on it. At number 23, Thunder Striker, formerly known as Intimidator, at Carowinds. This ride is a B&M Hyper, and up until Fury 325's opening, Thunder Striker, or Intimidator as I like to refer to it, was the headlining attraction at Carowinds. Maybe, give or take, some afterburn, but still a good ride. I did not have the best ride on it, but it was not a busy day. I got to walk on twice back row rides, which that's the only good, well, all the seats are good on a B&M Hyper, but the best seat on the staggered row 16. Excuse me. At number 22, another hyper coaster, but this time by a different manufacturer, Steel Force at Dorney Park. Steel Force is a Morgan hyper, which looks similar to the hypers built by Aerodynamics. This ride, those trains, the lap bar was at its lowest. It didn't even touch my legs. So I got some pretty good airtime, but the ending on Magnum beats it by a lot. Anyway, at number 21 I have Possessed at Dorney Park, which is an Intamin Impulse. So these rides have a multi-pass launch. You go up into a you go up into a twisted spike and then launch back, go into a straight, and pretty much it just goes from there. At number 20, Bat at Kings Island. As I said before, this is the best aero-suspended coaster I've been on. This definitely beats its neighbor to the north. I'm sorry, Iron Dragon, but it's true. At number 19, we have Hydra at Dorney Park. Hydra is a B&M floorless, and this is one of two coasters I've ridden with a JoJo roll in the layout, which is a 0G roll right out of the station. This one has pretty good airtime and it's whippy. That Cobra roll, it's weirdly shaped. And it's also weird in the ride experience itself. At number 18, another coaster from Dorney Park, Talon. Talon is a B&M Hyper, and this was the last credit. I believe this is the last credit I got there. Talon it has the old B&M restraints, the over-the-shoulders, which I get why they're better than the vests, but come on, I'd rather have no headbanging than headbanging with airtime. And even with the vests, you get airtime. Anyway, at number 17, Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland. Yukon Striker opened the same year as Valravn at Cedar Point, a B&M dive, and this one actually beats out Valravn in the drop statistic, because you go underwater. Like, there's a tunnel leading underwater, and then you go into the first element. It is quite the ride. At number 16, this is one of the ones that started it all. Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. This ride, I was expecting a little weaker layout than other hypers I've ridden, but this one, you got some airtime, and that finale, oh my goodness. If Magnum was built today, we wouldn't have that finale. At number 15, another hypercoaster, this one by B&M, Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland. Behemoth is really a it's really just another B&M hyper. A B&M hyper is a B&M hyper. But there is one big drawback from this ride, which is why I have it placed at number 15. And I believe that it is right before the mid-course brake run. You have 3 camelbacks, or airtime hills, in a row, and they all have a trim brake on them. All 3 of them. So it's like, you do not need that many trims on a coaster. 3 in a row. Come on, Canada's Wonderland. I know you can do better. But really, there's nothing else I can complain about on this ride. We were stuck on the brake run for a little bit because the train that was currently in the station had an accident, so they were having to clean off the train. So, yeah. 14, 13, and 12 are what I call a trio. Raptor at Cedar Point is number 14. This is quite an intense ride. You have either 5 or 6 inversions I can't remember off the top of my head, and a double helix at the end. And you have so much speed going into it, and it's really one of the most intense rides in Ohio. At number 13 is Afterburn at Carowinds. Afterburn is another B&M Hyper from the era of Raptor, so that 1990 to 1999. Afterburn opened as Carowinds' Top Gun roller coaster when Paramount owned the park, and it is still quite a good ride. It is also very intense. And at number 12, we have Banshee at Kings Island. Banshee is also a B&M Hyper, but this one, not Hyper, Invert. Raptor, Afterburn, and Banshee are all inverts. If I said the wrong thing, I'm sorry. But Banshee, you have 7 inversions across, I believe, the 4,124-foot layout, 167 feet tall, and you have an inline twist at the end, which is, I don't want to say a variation of a 0G roll, but it kind of is. And you go up into like a half helix, but it ends up with a lot less speed than when you entered that helix, so you get some pretty good hang time on that last inversion. At number 11, this is the other B&M dive I was talking about, Valravn at Cedar Point. Valravn, we waited. This one was a tad overhyped, but it was still fun. Valravn, you have your standard 90-degree drop and drawn-out elements, but the last, I believe it is classified as a 0G roll, but it's more like a corkscrew. But you get some decent hang time on it. At number 10, this is the first Giga on the list. This is the second one I rode. No, third. Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. Leviathan opened as the first B&M Giga, and the brake run, it's like 500 feet long, so not sure what they were doing there, and it also is pretty high up from the station. This one was worth it, though, for the weight I had on it. And now we have entered the top 10, including Leviathan. At number 9, Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Gatekeeper is a B&M wing coaster, and after the lift hill, you go into what we call a wing overdrop, and it's so you have the track in the middle and cars, like seats on both sides, and at the top of the lift hill you go like that into an inversion, and in the first like 6 rows you get some pretty good hang time. Gatekeeper, that was the first ride we did at Cedar Point, and that was enough to make me like, okay, this is going to be amazing. At number 8, we have Iron Menace at Dorney Park. Iron Menace is a B&M mini dive, 4 inversions, and it is not as good. Well, this has a 95-degree drop, and it just opened this year. So can't get much better than that. At number 7, Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Millennium Force is the original Giga Coaster, and this is really one of the better rides at Cedar Point, but there are some that beat it out. But Millennium, we waited 2 hours for it, which is pretty good for Cedar Point, including a 20-minute shutdown with the train stuck on the lift hill. At number 6, we have Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. Copperhead Strike is a Mack Rides multi-launch roller coaster. Mack Rides has built a bunch of Wild Mouse coasters, and they have 2 different models, I believe, but this one is really a good ride. Airtime, hang time, whip. This is the other coaster I've ridden with a JoJo roll. That first launch isn't as powerful as others that I've ridden, but it's still amazing. At number 5, Orion at Kings Island. Orion was the first Giga I ever rode, and some people don't even call it a Giga because it's 287 feet tall. But it has a 300-foot drop, so I call it a Hyper Giga Hybrid. This one, they could have expanded the layout because this costed as much as my number 2 coaster, Fury 325, but I'll get to that in a little bit. At number 4, this is really the in-park rival to Orion. It's Diamondback. Diamondback is a B&M Hyper, which is more of a linear layout, consisting of just a bunch of airtime hills, ending with a splashdown. This is the best ride at Kings Island. And it's worth it every time I get on. We're in the top 3 now, so at number 3, it's Maverick at Cedar Point. Maverick is an Intamin Blitz coaster. You start off with a launched lift hill, which is just your standard lift hill, but with launch fins instead of a chain. So you have some speed going up that hill, and then you go into a 95-degree drop with some whippy turns, snappy transitions, 2 corkscrews, and then a launch midway through from practically a dead stop to 70 miles an hour. Maverick was well worth the wait. At number 2, I have Fury 325 at Carowinds. Fury was my number 1 for pretty much the whole summer and August. So, Fury, it was just like the best ride I've ever been on, except for my number 1, which is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point.
Steel is number 1.
Goodness.
By the way, I'm Jacob's brother. Hello. I don't know if you can see me. Hello.
Steel Vengeance is an RMC Hyper Hybrid. It opened, well, its predecessor, Mean Streak, opened in the 90s, and then it closed, well, it may have been the 80s, but it closed in, I believe, 2016, and they, in Cedar Fair, had this new company called Rocky Mountain Construction, who had done work on other coasters in converting them from old dying wooden coasters to steel hybrid coasters. They had done work on the Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas, the Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, turning each of them respectively into New Texas Giant and Iron Rattler. Steel Vengeance, I believe, is their biggest project to date. It may be Zadra, but Steel Vengeance has the most airtime on any coaster in the world,
Hey, I'm back again.
with
and I
like
have
30 consecutive seconds.
I have one more comment about Steel Vengeance. Jacob, move your head. This is the Steel Vengeance Cedar Point Park exclusive Squishmallow. Get it now. I like it.
Anyway, that's gonna call it for this video. This is Coaster Crew signing off.
Like and subscribe.
We will see you in the next video. Bye.